Hey YouTube, Spaced Out here, bringing you another video this week. And in this week's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. All the previous videos and this channel is primarily focused on video games, but I wanted to talk about another hobby that I have, and that's disc golf. Now, for those of you who are followers on my Twitter at I'm Spaced Out TV, a couple weeks ago I posted that I finally won my very first disc golf tournament, while only the rec division. As some would say, you know, it's not the pros. It just shows I've really been improving my game this year and finally starting to connect the dots to getting those lower scores. And I thought, what better what better time to show you guys what I'm throwing, definitely for the rest of this year and probably going into the next year as well. So let's go ahead and just, I guess, for full disclaimer, my name is Jacob White, if you didn't know, and my PDGA number is 91079. Getting back into the disc, let's start with the drivers. I already had these in my hands, so they didn't just appear out of thin air, but I'm carrying 3 Raiders in the bag this year. The first one here is a bottom stamp white Fusion Raider. It's my most overstable. You know, this is 175. This is what I have for when the wind is up. The Raider has been one of the furthest flying overstable drivers that I've thrown. I guess the primary ones that I throw here are these yellow ones. They got the stamp, it's okay to be alone. I picked up a couple of these off Infinite Discs, and these are Biofusion Raiders. These go forever. I throw them out on slight hyzer. They pop up the flat right to the right, just slightly, pretty much just pop up the flat, maybe a slight right drift, and go a long way and then come back, finish left. Super reliable. These drivers have been awesome this year. Full disclaimer, I don't have the biggest arm. I'm not throwing, you know, like the internet, everyone throws 400 or higher. That's not me. Full disclaimer. My max distance usually is 375 to 380. That's about where I throw. I have thrown over 400 before, but I mean, I got a crazy wind ride. Like, I had help. Okay. Anyway, 3 Raiders in the bag. Next driver I have is a Moonshine Bolt. This is my super max distance. If I'm going to hit 400, it's going to be with a bolt. This is usually for shots where there's nothing in the way. I'm not trying to stay in bounds or anything. If this thing squirrels on me, it's okay. There is one thing I will say about this disc, and just really Latitude 64 drivers in general. I fortunately have had the pleasure of throwing a lot of different discs from a lot of different companies. Latitude 64 drivers probably have the most glide out of any driver that I've thrown. So take it for what it's worth. Bolt, great max utility. I have been trying out the just the Discraft Hades. I'm still working with that, but right now this one just goes further. They both fly similar lines for me. I can get that good carry to the right and maybe slight comeback at the end. The Bolt just goes further for me than the Hades. So I'll keep working on the Hades in the background, but for now, this isn't leaving the bag. Latitude 64 Bolt. Dropping down in speeds a little bit, let's go into the fairway drivers. And the bread and butter, what I go to is the Discraft Undertaker. You can't really tell because the stamp has been taken off, but this is an Undertaker. I usually have 2 in the bag. I was experimenting with some other discs just last week, so I haven't put it back in the bag, but normally I have 2 of these. This is an ESP Undertaker. You know, max weight 173, 174. You know, I can put this disc on any line. It'll hold the ante, it'll hold a hyzer, it'll fly straight. This is basically, we'll get into this in a little bit, but I like throwing the EMAC truce a lot, and this is kind of like that disc for me for fairway drivers. So Undertaker, highly recommend. My next fairway driver is an S-Line TD from Discmania, and this is a disc I'm trying to work in to be my roller. Right now I can get it to fly straight or have that good anti-flight, that long anti-flight. Goes a good long way. I'm still working it in. It doesn't quite flip over for my roller quite yet, but I'm still working with it. It's a great disc, feels great in the hand. S-Line TD. Now the other kind of utility fairway drivers I have 2 super overstable ones. The first one I'll talk about is this Firebird. This is a Champion Luster Firebird max weight. I just picked this up recently. This is the most overstable Firebird that I have ever thrown in my life. I have not had the privilege of throwing those old school Firebirds. I love all the Nate Sexton released Firebirds. I've thrown them a lot over the years, but this one takes the cake as far as like beef, skip. You know, it's almost too overstable, but it's good to have a disc like that in the bag. For those really kind of hard, like I have to do a really hard flex line forehand, try to get that big skip on both forehand and backhand. You always have to have a Firebird in the bag. Doesn't matter the plastic, you always have to have one. Champion Luster Firebird. Next, as far as super overstable goes, we have a PD3 from Discmania. This is the European Open tournament fundraiser disc this year. Unfortunately, that tournament got canceled due to the pandemic. It really sucks because I enjoy watching that tournament. The courses, I've never been there, but they look beautiful. Maybe it's definitely on my bucket list to try to get over there at some point. But PD3, super overstable, kind of similar to that Firebird, except it goes further. I guess it is technically an 11 speed, so it does get that little bit of extra distance and still has that stupid overstability. I've been debating taking this out, but each time I debate taking it out, I hit a shot that I have to pull this out and I throw it and it does exactly what I want. So who knows, probably staying in the bag, but great disc. Discmania PD3. That's all for the drivers. Like I said, I don't throw a ton of drivers and you'll see why here in a sec. But let's go ahead and just get into mid-ranges. Now, full disclaimer, I carry a total of 10 mid-ranges, which seems absurd. But disc golf is really up to you and how you want to play it. And, you know, kind of the slower speed, that 5-speed range is what I throw really well. And my scores have been going down because of it. So I like throwing mids. That's the bottom line. I like throwing mids. So let's start from understable and go to overstable. The very first one here is a dynamic disc Patrol. I just picked this out recently. I've been doing a lot of business travel out to the East Coast, a lot of woods golf out there, woods that I'm not used to playing in, and I needed a disc that can kind of just quickly go. I can just throw it up either on a hyzer or flat, and it's just going to quickly turn, you know, kind of get up and turn and get around the corner. I've also had to do some touch forehands where I have to throw it on a hyzer. I need it to kind of like come up, pop, and go and turn over. I've needed that too. The Patrol does that almost too well. It's almost too understable for what I'm wanting, but because the warrant got discontinued by Dynamic Disc, this is what I'm using in the meantime. Maybe I can find a warrant at some point, we'll see, but right now, super utility understable Patrol in the bag. Next, we are going to have a Lucid Truth. This is a regular Truth. This one is, I picked it up initially for that kind of that turning shot that I have the Patrol for. Unfortunately, this Lucid Truth is one of the straightest flying truths I've thrown. It doesn't really turn for me. Although obviously I can put it on any angle I want and it holds the angle, but I was really hoping something I could throw out there flat and get that either, if I throw it on any, it really gets that quick turn. If I throw it flat, it gets that reliable turn. Not dump turn, but you get what I'm talking about. I wanted something flat, drift off to the right, maybe turn, reliably turn to the right. Anyway, this disc doesn't do that. It flies dead straight, and I'm still working in. I would like it to get to that point, but you know, dynamic disc, Lucid plastic, very durable. I'm still working with it. It's a good disc. It's not leaving the bag anytime soon. Yeah, all I got to say about that. Next one, I carry 6 EMAC truths in the bag. This is by far my favorite disc, my most useful disc. All different plastics. They all fly a little bit different and fly exactly what I need them to do. So the very first one is probably the most special one. This is a Eric McCabe 2010 World's Champion stamped EMAC truth. I guess before they started releasing EMAC truths, I wasn't playing disc golf religiously back then, but I got my hands on one, and this disc flies great. And even you can still put it on any line that you want. The hyzer, not so much. It's starting to lose that stability, but this is still super reliable, especially those straight shots. If I need something that like hyzer flip up flies dead straight, this is the disc. Still the most thrown. It's the oldest and most thrown in my bag, and it's still a still a go-to. That was just a regular Lucid EMAC. This next one, we have a Moonshine EMAC Truth. All full disclaimer, all these are max weight. This is a Moonshine EMAC Truth, and unlike Moonshine EMACs I've thrown in the past, I have a little bit of fade to them. This one doesn't for some reason. Has a ton of glide. I throw it hard and it flies dead straight. It does not go to the right at all, but it doesn't fade either. It's just dead straight. I don't know why. There's something different about this mold. It happens, but super useful nonetheless. Now my go-to one outside of that yellow EMAC that I showed you at the start, we have this is the teeny fundraiser disc for this year. One of the sickest stamps I've ever seen. This is the Lucid Sparkle EMAC Truth, and I can throw this one out there nice and flat and hard, and it still gets a little bit of finish on the left. It's just perfect. I love this disc a lot. Lucid Sparkle EMAC Truth. Next we have, this is the 4th of July release this year, EMAC Truth. This is the Lucid Confetti plastic. You see the big USA. I haven't thrown this disc a ton. I just know it's more overstable than the Sparkle, at least mine is. So usually those hyzer shots, I've been throwing this. I'll get to throwing this more over time, but again, not too many throws with this. We're slowly working it in. All right, getting to the more overstable EMACs, I have a Eric McCabe 2020 Lucid X EMAC Truth. This one is perfect. It's what I needed, especially down here in Texas. It does get windy, and I still like throwing mids, so I need mids that kind of hold up the wind a little bit. This one does a pretty good job. It has that forward glide that EMAC Truths always offer, except near the end of its flight, it just dumps out of the air. Really useful getting around corners and stuff. The overstable mid-ranges I used to throw, maybe like a Verdict or something like that, this basically kicked out of the bag because it feels the same as all the other EMACs and has that overstable flight that I'm looking for. Lucid X EMAC Truth. Last EMAC Truth I have, I just got this recently. This is another Eric McCabe signature Lucid X Chameleon EMAC Truth. This one is the most overstable that I have. Again, any of those overstable mid shots, you know, forehand, backhand, it can handle all the torque. This one does not hold any too well. I have to really like crank it over if I'm going to do anything like that, but usually if I need a shot like that, I'm going to grab a different EMAC. But again, reliably overstable Lucid X Chameleon EMAC Truth. Last two mid-ranges, these are more overstable than the EMAC Truths. First one we have is a Discmania Razor Claw Eagle Wingman Signature Series. They released the Tactic early on this year, and I really like it. And what I'll explain more with another disc here in a sec, but I like this disc because it doesn't have a ton of glide. Like, it has a glide rating of 2, which means it's great for approach shots, which is primarily what I need it for. Anything I need to throw down a pipe or anything, I'm gonna go to an EMAC, but as far as approach shots go, this one is the answer for the overstable stuff. I went ahead and picked up the Razor Claw because it's in that kind of star plastic. It's more durable than the Tactics I was using. I've unfortunately hit some trees. I've had some bubbling effects. I've messed up some Tactics. What can you say? Anyway, durability is through the roof, and it still has that reliable fade that I'm looking for in this type of disc. So, Discmania Razor Claw. Last mid-range, Lucid Justice from the Dynamic Disc. This is the 2018 Texas Amateur Championship stamp. Looks sick. There's not much to say about a Justice. You've seen other in the bag videos about Justice, about the Justice. It's super overstable, forehand, backhand. It's gonna dump whichever way. The backhand's gonna dump left, forehand's gonna dump right. Need this skip shots. Holds up to the wind very, very well. You know, I'll be a full disclaimer, I don't throw this disc a lot. It's like maybe I throw it once or twice, you know, around. Usually I've found if I'm throwing this disc a lot, I'm not having a good round. So there you have it, Lucid Justice. Finally, the slow stuff. I have 2 throwing putters. first one is literally just got it added to the bag a week ago. It's already made the bag. This is a Luster Invader by Nova. Basically flies dead straight. I have a hard time with the EMACs every once in a while is that they go too far. So if you come up on a short hole, like 200, 250 feet, I guess more, I'd say 200, I guess 220 and in. I would say that 220 and in. The EMAC Trues fly a little too far for me, and it's really hard for me to power them down without them like fading out. So this putter is the answer for that. Again, Luster Invader. I'm still working with it to learn all the ins and outs, but for the most part, you can fly dead straight, which is pretty much what all I need it for. Straight shots off the tee in the woods, doesn't matter. Invader. Now to the disc that has literally revolutionized my game this year. This has taken off so many strokes off the scorecard. The EMAC Truth might be my favorite disc. If it wasn't in the bag, this would be my favorite disc. This is the BERG. If you don't know about the BERG, long story short, it doesn't fly. It's literally like throwing a brick. I know numbers aren't everything, but the flight ratings on this thing are a 1102. It has no glide. That stands out like full power. I can throw this 250 feet at full power. I primarily use this for approach shots. This is where it's like dead money, that approach shot game. You know, to save yourself from your putt, if putting is where you struggle like me, your approach game is probably most important because you get you to the basket and make those. If you struggle with like those 25-foot putts, if you got a disc that can reliably get you within 5 to 10 like this, just give it a try. I highly recommend. But Anheuser's, flat shots, doesn't matter. The BERG does it, and it gets me right up next to the pin. I cannot understate this enough. This disc changed my game. Great disc. All right, for the putters, the putting putters, the bread of the butter. And for the most of last year and going into most of this year, I've been putting with KC AVIARs. I've still been putting with KC AVIARs, but I've recently switched to the YETIPRO AVIARs. Again, that kind of concave top to it has a little bit, it's just comfortable in my hand. It still has the bead, feels the same as the KC AVIARs, but I kind of just like how my thumb sinks into that puddle on top of the disc a little bit. It is a little bit gummier than KC plastic, which I thought was gonna be a problem with the Texas heat and becoming really flexible, but it hasn't been the case. They kind of remain the same. I've used these in the winter before. They're great. I highly recommend. You don't see a ton of people putting with YETIPRO AVIARs, and I'm not sure why. They're great putters. Give them a try. That is going to be it for my 2020 in the bag, kind of a mixed bag, kind of throwing all over the place. It's basically throw an EMAC and then throw up a follow shot. Pretty much my game, been really working for me. I highly recommend giving it a try. Thank you as always for all the support that you guys have been showing the channel. It's been great. Be sure to leave a comment on what you liked about this video and maybe some other content you want to see in the future. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe to the channel and click that bell so you get the notifications each time we upload a new video. But with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next video. Adios.